or as we move into item B, I would like to explain something about what we're doing here.
C.
I mean C. It's my dyslexia, I flipped it, I'm sorry. Before we begin this and go into the public hearing, I would like to make note that there are some matters of great concern to me since these things need to be very clear in what we're doing. First of all, this is a zoning, not a plating. Plating is a very mechanical process and must be granted if certain technical requirements are met. We don't do this very often, so bear with me. I want you to understand exactly what's going on. In zoning, the City Council has a wide discretion to determine whether or not proposed zoning is in the best interest of the community and its constituents. What is called the highest and best use of the property. In this, as in all other cases, the city is going to follow the appropriate rules and address the normal and reasonable concerns. It's come to my knowledge that the gentleman that owns the property has been in touch with Mr. Passmore, and that our councilman Basham has warned the person asking for the zoning that he will be railroaded by the city council. I have no idea how. I have no idea. Well, you're going to take that up with him then. I have no idea why he has now decided to take sides on this proposed matter. Everyone needs to know that this is not proper. We have not heard the case, and it needs to be decided after we hear everything. There are various issues we must consider in all such matters as this. We must have a public hearing where everyone can speak their minds, and the council can understand how this will affect the area. We are concerned as to whether or not any sort of request is spot zoning outside of the normal pattern of zoning in the city. We must also address the very large issue of whether the proposed change is compatible with the area and its highest and best use. Remember, the current zoning scheme only allows commercial use for 300 feet back from the highway. In order to assist us and allow the people who wish to address this, I'm going to ask the staff to go over some of the issues that we must consider. So I do at this time, I need to open this into a public hearing.
Make a motion that we go into public hearing.
Motion made
7:56.
by Billy Steele at 7:56 to go into a public hearing, seconded by Bonnie Black. You're late again.
Going into public hearing or planning and zoning?
We're going into planning zoning. I'm sorry, would you?
Excuse me. At 7:56.
At 7:56. Thank you, Eric. I didn't catch that. We're moving into planning and zoning. Seconded by Bonnie Black. All in favor? Opposed? So it passes. Item D, public hearing on proposed zoning change and proposed use of RV Bluegrass Park located at 750 Jaybird Lane. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing? Sir.
Mayor, would you like me to go into some issues that are probably what people need to be talking about or thinking about as they make their presentations in public hearings?
Okay, so before we do the public hearing, I'll let you do that, but you've got to use your microphone. I know, just that way.
There are several things that we will be discussing and which the council is required by law to consider in any sort of zoning change such as this. One of the first items that you have to consider, members of the council, is whether or not this constitutes what is called spot zoning. Spot zoning is a fancy term, I suppose, for a situation in which you place something out of its normal locale. We've had cases before. You may remember the situation when people wanted to put in the foundry of sorts in the middle of a residential area. What is proposed here, as I understand it, would be a bluegrass RV park for at least a portion of this property, extending back further from the road than it is at present. This would be basically sticking it in the middle of what we now have zoned as a type of residential zoning. So it is arguably spot zoned. We also have a comprehensive plan. This one is kind of in an interesting situation since it's in a transition phase with our comprehensive plan. But in the original comprehensive plan, the idea was that commercial be fairly close to the road. we have a new comprehensive plan, which the council will remember we passed last time. And that also does not provide for any such use of this in a residential zone further away from the road. There are also issues of compatibility which you need to decide. As the mayor was correct, this is not platting. In a platting case, if a plat technically meets the requirements, it must by law be approved. In a zoning case, the council has to make a much more difficult decision where you have to decide whether or not it actually is in keeping with the spirit of the ordinance and the best interest of the city, the so-called highest and best use. In this particular type of situation, there are several things we probably need to discuss. One, if people want to comment or if the council wants to be aware of this, you might discuss whether or not an RV park, which normally is a place that holds, a venue that holds bluegrass, in this particular case, bluegrass musical events, there will be noise, obviously presented by this, to the surrounding area. You need to be aware whether that happens or what effect that can have on the community. If the community feels that is significant, they may wish to address it. These things usually occur at night as well as during the day, so there will be lights. They will glow in the dark. So you may want to be aware of that. They normally bring in fairly large numbers of people, so you may want to discuss the idea of trash and debris, which will have to be dealt with in terms of cleanup and so forth. Otherwise, you can't have things spread around. Now, with regards to a couple of other items, I'd like to ask the city administrator, Mr. Polino, to discuss this. He was also the director, in addition to being director of public safety, he was also director of development for Clinton County. And there are several other items such as traffic, BD activity, and septics, which probably should be addressed as well.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Council, as Mr. Leonard had mentioned, I'm the former director of development for Hood County. And in fact, I wrote the RV regulations for the county prior to my retiring and then coming here to work for the City of Reno. I'm not going to bore everyone with a list of requirements to have an RV park. I mean, those come later on after a determination is made about whether that particular use of that land is proper, and that determination certainly will be made by the council. The things that I had to consider in dealing with the creation of an RV park, and that you will have to consider as well, certainly. Well, certainly the first thing is septic, because most of the time parks will provide, should provide a way for RVs to dispose of black water one way. Certainly provide other utilities as required. We have to make sure that the development and the configuration of the area is such where the police have ingress and egress as well as the city as citizens, but also we have to consider EMS and the fire department. And one of the things that I had to consider, and we really had to work on very succinctly, is the fact that when the fire trucks, when they come in, do they have enough room to turn around? There has to be an X amount of room down at the end of a road to turn around in a cul-de-sac. So we have to have regulations in that regard. As far as ingress and egress, we have to make sure that the same exit and entrance are not used by RVs coming and going. You have to separate that so you don't have cars, RVs actually running into one another or actually blocking the driveways on a road, especially a road like Fairburn. We also have to think about what is going to be the additional requirements of our police department, because we're going to have people, more people there in that area, and the police will have to control traffic. Not only that, but also control incidents, respond to incidents that occur within the park. The park is no different than any other small little community. It has its pros and its cons, and certainly we will have to deal with those kinds of issues. I mean, tonight alone, you heard about one of our officers who was injured just last week in a mobile home park, which is somewhat, as far as configuration and amount of people in a small amount of area, that an RV would constitute. Trash was always a big problem for us because we have to make sure that the operators of the RV park are very diligent in not only the amount of trash that is removed and removed in a timely manner, but also the type of trash, making sure that people are not disposing of toxic waste or oil or things of that nature. So that has to be controlled in that way as well. Mr. Leonard made reference to noise and lights. That certainly for, when you consider what this particular property is proposed to be used for, there's going to be an increase certainly in noise and in lights to run that particular enterprise. So those are just some of the things for you to take into consideration. I'm sure tonight, as we have our public hearing, we may hear some other issues as well, as some of the attendings here are well acquainted with the property. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we're going to open this public hearing now.
Make a motion that we convene to Planning and Zoning Commission at 8:06.
Motion made by Billy at 8:06 to open the public hearing, seconded by Ken Marnell. All in favor? Opposed? So it passes. Folks, yep, we have the list, okay. It's a long night. When I became your mayor, you got very little time to speak, if you ever got to speak. Just, if you can, we'll answer every question you have that's within our power. I think the gentleman who wants the park, is he here tonight? Or the gentleman that?
Yeah, he's there.
Okay. Perhaps he can answer some questions. Maybe he should come up and we should hear from him first.
And who is that, Mayor, so I know?
I don't know the man's
Like
name.
Mr. Ricky Nelson.
Oh, Mr. Ricky Nelson.
Yep.
That's a heck of a name to have to fill up, sir.
Mr. Nelson, are you a resident in the area? Because you didn't put your address down. Okay, so when you're done, if you come on over and put your address down. Yes, please.